I keep a table in my Google Docs entitled Writing Schedule. It's mostly a long list of ideas loosely ordered into what I might get to and when. On that document since early last year has been an entry called The Minds Behind Danganronpa and Zero Escape. The idea was similar to my video That Game Company's Journey to Sky Children of the Light. I wanted to document the works of Kazutaka Kodaka and Kotaro Uchikoshi through their time prior to joining Spike Chunsoft, their cult hits with the mid-sized Japanese company, and then their departure and formation of Tokyo Games. There was a big problem with this concept. Kodaka and Uchikoshi have been in the games industry for a long time. I'd have to engage with as much as feasibly possible, given issues of localization. This would still total hundreds of hours. Then I'd have to make the video, adding dozens of hours to a project whose creative direction was becoming more unclear. I wanted this video to be rather comprehensive, but the scale simply was not in my wheelhouse, and still isn't. So I put that project on the back burner. That's where following Tokyo Games comes in. As my time as a critic has gone on, I have continued to shift farther away from the dry reviews I wrote a decade ago on sites now long dead. My idea here is to be deliberate in following these creative people, to have these individual videos add up to something larger. So here is my mission statement with following Tokyo Games. While we are still relatively contemporary to even the oldest entries from the company, I want to begin a series of videos that progresses alongside them. It won't simply be reviews that feel divorced from one another. I want to marry subjective and contemporary critique to an informative approach on the company, its staff, and creative output. So let's set it all up. Uchikoshi is a director and writer on both video games and anime, getting his start in the games industry as a 3D modeler on Pepsi Man in the late 90s, at the Japanese developer Kindle Imagine Develop. Uchikoshi would stay with Kid over the years but be given the role of planner and scenario writer on a number of entries into two visual novel series, Memories Off and Infinity. Memories Off is more romantic and down-to-earth by comparison, while Infinity is more in line with Uchikoshi's later work. Of these, the most well-known outside of Japan is Ever 17: The Out of Infinity, which received an official North American localization for PC in 2005. It's important to note that Uchikoshi was not a full-time employee of Kid even by its Japanese release in 2002. He became a freelancer in 2001, desiring more creative freedom, which proved to be a prudent move, allowing him to work on other projects with other developers, including an erotic visual novel that he is uncredited for and claims to have forgotten the name of. He still worked with Kid until 2007, with 2008's 12 Riven: The Cycliminal of Integral, which only got released thanks to Cyberfront Corporation swooping in to purchase the IP of Kid after they had declared bankruptcy in 2006. As for our man Uchikoshi, he signed on with Spike Chunsoft in 2007. 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors released in 2009 in Japan and 2010 in North America. This is where I, and most of his Western audience, became familiar with his work. 999 was followed up on in 2012 by Zero Escape: Virtue's Last Reward. But it's then where things got a little dicey for Zero Escape as uncertainty swirled around the final installment of the trilogy. During this period, Uchikoshi expressed that he was unsure if he'd get to finish the series, as the lackluster sales figures in Japan made it a hard pitch to sell. 2015 turned things around for him though, in a number of ways. He wrote his first anime, Punchline, which was produced by MAPPA. Then the very vocal support of the Zero Escape fandom helped Uchikoshi prove to his bosses that the series deserved a proper send-off. Zero Time Dilemma released in 2016. As a thanks to his foreign fans who were core to that push, the game was released 2 days early in North America and Europe. Kodaka began his career in games as a sub-director on the Capcom survival horror title Clock Tower 3 in 2002. He would go on to write for a few licensed titles, and also be involved in the long-running mystery adventure series Jake Hunter. He got his big break when he was given the role of planner and scenario writer on the Spike Chunsoft published Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc in 2010. It was an idea he had pitched before as a project called Distrust, but had been turned down being told it was too dark. While the series didn't make its way out of Japan until 2014, it did become a lucrative cult hit, spawning 2 sequels and 2 spin-offs. Then a number of anime, manga, and light novels, with his final game in the series being Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony, which was released in 2017. But we can't forget about his role outside of games. His non-video game output is fairly extensive. Not only did he work on the Danganronpa anime to varying degrees, but he wrote the light novels and manga. Tokyo Games co-founder and Danganronpa artist Rui Komatsuzaki provided illustrations for those light novels. Kodaka also went on to write a couple Jake Hunter light novels in 2006 and 2007. His writing isn't limited to Spike Chunsoft properties though. He wrote an episode of Woozer's Hand-to-Mouth Life in 2015, and the original manga Gurren 5 in 2013, and Gambler's Paradise in 2018. But to focus in on 2017 for a second here, it's an important year for this video series, as it's when Tokyo Games was formed. Kodaka, alongside Danganronpa composer Masafumi Takada and series artist Rui Komatsuzaki, got together with their Spike Chunsoft buddy Kotaro Uchikoshi. They officially announced the formation of Tokyo Games to the world in 2018 after a cryptic press cycle that included support from Suda51 and Yoko Taro. With a few other old associates, the new Tokyo-based studio announced themselves as a house of creatives who would venture into, of course, video games, but other mediums as well, announcing 4 projects right away, with 2 of them being anime. At some point, I will give a focus to Komatsuzaki and Takada. In fact, when I feel the need, this series will cover works outside of the Tokyo Games label, and discuss other staff members. As of the time of this writing, their website lists 10 creators, including folks such as Takumi Nakazawa, who worked on both the Infinity and Memories Off series, as well as composer Jun Fukuda, whose music can be heard in the Danganronpa series, Killer 7, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, it's important to note that the early years of Tokyo Games has not been exactly typical of a new developer with famous staff. The team's involvement with Spike Chunsoft is not over. After all, Uchikoshi wrote and directed the 2019 release AI The Somnium Files. He is also returning to write, but not direct, the sequel Nirvana Initiative, due out later this year. And Tokyo Games is not officially tied to the project despite his involvement. Meanwhile, Spike Chunsoft is involved as a publisher on the upcoming Tokyo Games release Enigma Archives Rain Code, which goes to show the mercenary and collaborative nature of Tokyo Games, which is what I find rather fascinating. Look at their projects, be it anime or games, and across them all are a number of companies. The Tokyo staff often have lead roles or come up with the original concepts, but they have not done the bulk of the daily, in the trenches work of creating video games or anime in-house. They are truly a team of creators banding together to hire themselves out in a way that enables their creativity. So now it's time for me to start this video series in earnest with the 2020 release of
Come on, this come true. Love me, this come true. Ha 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 ha.
So obviously this is going to be a pretty long-running series. The plan is to have a few of these out this year, and be mostly caught up on what Tokyo Games is directly involved in. And then by next year, probably start doing some of the other stuff that some of the team members have worked on. If you'd like to support that and all the other work I do, you can do so over on Patreon or Ko-fi. And for all of those who have supported me in any way, I say thank you.